I read that little children up to age about 7, 8, when they are exposed to classical music, they love it. But it is later on when children are teenagers and they don't have chance to hear classical music that the problems start. And they right away, even they never hear it, if you ask them, they say they don't like it. Because, as you said, peer pressure, or they think it's not fashionable. However, I think that if there was more music and exposure to classical composure in elementary school, that would become something natural for children. This will help them to focus because there is quite a relationship between math and science and music. Also, it would help them to be happier, to be calmer. So I think part of the problem it is that the music and education about culture was taken out from the elementary school.
Once again, we are really back to politics. Politics means money. What you are describing is very valuable, but how to persuade politicians to give money to schools to hire the qualified people to include music as part of the curriculum. I don't know how to do it. I wish that we could have more music and indeed look at music as a kind of balancing subject between science and behavior, totally two different areas, but yet music relates to both of them. Peer pressure definitely has something to do with it. It's not cool to show emotions. It's not cool to be involved in things, to be in a minority situation. So that if the students who go through high school without actually knowing much about music end up at the university level, it's difficult to actually find the right moment or the right spot where to begin the education. I mean, do you begin then at the university level in square one? Fortunately, we do have enough talent, at least I'm talking about our university, which presents itself every once in a while, and we end up with good students. Maybe statistically, there wouldn't even be much difference between the students that we graduated 20 years ago versus the students we graduate now. There's always some talent. There are always individuals who end up going into PhD programs to the best schools in the world, come back and even get engaged by our own faculty of music. Of course, it would be very helpful if we had the money to institute art schools at the secondary level. Instead of having a general high school, to have a music high school. Something that I went through, where the music subjects were taught from year to year. In my case, it went for 5 years, where you had a cycle of history, a repeated cycle of theory, where you actually studied on a quite sophisticated level counterpoint and harmony, and where you could actually discover more about yourself and not only discover whether or not music will be part of your professional life, but also what kind of professional life. Will you go into education? What kind of education? Or will you ultimately become a composer? What kind of composer? It's already at that level, it's important to get to know the literature, to know what was there, in order to harvest, in a sense, the essence of the best, and at the same time, perhaps, in order to avoid something that has been already very much used. And unfortunately, if you don't know about it, you will end up writing something that you think is new, where in fact it was very much in use, let's say in the 1950s or 60s. I'm talking about the present day composers. So on the one hand, I'm saying, okay, we need money to do the various good things. On the other hand, I would say, for as long as there is money, there will be we will still propagate. There will be ways to propagate music that actually nobody needs and nobody wants, and music that repeats the principles of what was fashionable when I was a young man in the 50s and 60s, which I experienced. I did it. Thank you very much. And it's not for me, but at least I know that it was there. I did it. I feel somewhat ill at ease when I think that there are people who go through various motions thinking that this is new and thinking that they do it for the first time, and at the same time they do not have a broad enough background to experience maybe music which is a result of some kind of fusion of various elements, of various trends, of various technical aspects, various cultures actually even. And I think that the future of new music in this case is precisely in what I'm saying, some kind of amalgamation, creation of music that will fuse the elements of the last decades. 20th century, let's not forget, was a century of experiment. And maybe in the 21st century we can bring the best and the most suitable aspects of the 20th century into the picture. At the same time, I feel that we need to create a broad base. In order to understand the music of today, we do need to understand the music of composers of the classics, ranging from Rachmaninoff to Stravinsky and various Western composers, of Middle European composers like Bartók and Szymanowski, Debussy, Ravel, etc., and all the music that preceded. So we need to maintain, nurture, and develop the broad base of music in order to get the society to actually want it, which I certainly hope will happen. The again question of time comes into mind. Will there be time to spend on music when we put a priority, let's say, to a hockey game? Why is it that somebody will sit a couple of hours in front of TV and watch hockey game, but will not sit comfortably in a chair and listen to a symphony of Mahler?